est où? Tout va. Bienvenue au 21, ce qui s'est donc passé jeudi, pané à 2h du matin. Madame et monsieur.
Ok. Qu'est-ce qui va donc se passer en Afrique? Comme avec vous, madame et monsieur. Bonsoir à tous et bienvenue pour cette histoire.
3, 2, 1, go!
Ok, c'est bon.
And we also know that the war has been going on for 7 years. But this time you have a northern candidate who has support from the south, but also from the north that has usually been the real bastion of the Biya regime. He's usually allied himself with northern politicians to be able to win. And the popular imagery is that those are the most populated parts of the country. And so there are people with a line of thought who believe maybe this might actually be the opportunity for you people to have your independence that you've been asking for, because this might usher in a new leader who could be more open to conversation. Is this something you have given thought to?
We've given thought to that, but also we've given thought to the fact that we've seen the crowds before. We saw the crowds with Frundi. We saw the crowds with Kamto, and remember Kamto just being one of the Francophones, being who they are. Kamto refused to talk to Ambazonian leaders. Kamto held a meeting in Canada, and when Ambazonians show up with their blue and white mufflers and flags, he refused them access into the hall of that meeting and promised a separate meeting with Ambazonians, which never happened. So you have now the case of Chiroma, and yes, I talked to Chiroma. You would want to believe, if I trusted that this guy embodies the kind of change you are describing, would be backing down and saying, let's give him a chance. No, Chiroma is just another Francophone politician. Again, look at, he was in Bamenda, letting the people to know, Chris, I know, get me permission to come to Bamenda, whereas I do not even know his political campaign schedule. It took me by surprise to know he was in Bamenda. But this is the point, Andy. We have tried this for 64 years. Yesterday was October 1st, marking the 64th year of joining La République du Cameroon. Yes. And what can we show for it? Chiroma is coming out from the same system. In fact, a big player in the system that made us what we are today. The slaves, the marginalized territory, the annexed and colonized territory that we are today. I know that he is out talking about some federation, no discussion being a taboo. I won't take any politician from La République du Cameroun by their word until they sit down at that moment and try to do exactly what they are doing. I have said to Chiroma, this is what I've told him for people who understand I talk to you. I said to Chiroma, if you want us to believe in what you are doing, you want Ambazonians to support you, let's do this. How about you boycott the elections and get other candidates to boycott the elections, or ask for a postponement of the elections, and then you, the candidates, sit down with the Ambazonian leadership and let's talk about the way forward after the election. If we agree on a referendum, we know that we are coming into the election to support you because we have a shared agenda. But no, they don't want to meet with the Ambazonian leaders before the election, because after the elections, we have no control over what they do. But if we agree on something before the election, after the election, they don't do it, we have something to show as an agreement we reach. But without that, there is nothing we can show as something will hold them on after the election.
But Mr. Anu, speaking about boycotting elections, that is a touchy topic, because in the 90s when Frundi or the SDF boycotted elections, legislative elections or local elections, they were blamed. In 2020, when Mr. Kamto boycotted elections, his party boycotted elections, the same thing. And boycotting doesn't seem to work for politicians in Cameroon because
I meant to say postpone, call for a postponement. Yes, call for a postponement.
But do you think that Chiroma, freshly resigning from the government, barely trying to reposture himself, break away from the alliance with the Biya government, was going to have a voice loud enough at that time to obtain a postponement of the election?
I think the moment you begin to gather the kind of traction that we see him gathering, he then has the influence to say to other politicians, listen, we think that this Ambazonian conflict is the number one conflict pulling down this country, and if we are serious with ourselves and to the people, let's postpone, let's petition for a postponement
that
of
would
the
give the
election.
Biya regime a Sovietic result. You would find ourselves, they would go ahead and carry out the election the same way it was done in the Northwest and Southwest for the legislative and municipals, and you have people becoming CPDM MPs with 3 votes because the elections have been boycotted. And that's the whole conundrum that we find ourselves in.
But again, you are not getting the point. The CPDM has always done that. Look at in Bamenda. Does anybody vote for a governor there? Of course not. Who votes for the senators? Biya appoints them. The house, the so-called regional house of chiefs, are they elected? Biya appoints them. So if Biya go and appoint himself president and then appoint his councillors, what is the difference? There is no difference. So there is no need to say to people, go out and vote as if their vote count. It doesn't. We've known that for 64 years.
So are you open to any form? I know you mentioned earlier that you're ready to have a conversation with everybody. And I'm going to ask you a few questions about the kind of conversations you were having with the Minister of Communication at the time, the minister or the former Minister of Communication when he was a reigning minister. Just the kind of communications, because those were some of the hottest periods or years of the Anglophone War, or the most shocking, because to say they were the hottest, people are still dying now, kids are still not allowed to go to school, but it looks like human beings in Cameroon have become accustomed to what is going on, and so they just go by unnoticed, the tragedy that is still occurring there. So we're going to discuss that. But are you open to some kind of dialogue? If there were to be a new president, are you ready to sit down on the table? Or are you saying that because you have declared independence, even though your territory is still not yet recognized by international organizations, are you ready to come to some level of compromise if the government were to change?
Of course, Angie, we are all the time, 100% of the time, and not just me. I think every other faction in the Ambazonian struggle is always open to dialogue. We don't care what they call it. For a dialogue that is on a level playing field, it is free, it is fair, our security is guaranteed. We are always open to it. Remember, there was once the talk of a Swiss talk, and we were on the table, we were ready to go. And then you heard of Canada. It is the Ambazonian faction that was there. In both cases, it was Cameroon that always pulled out. And then they put together their so-called Grand National Dialogue, in which I believe you know, it wasn't a level playing field, it wasn't fair, security wasn't there for us, and that is the only occasion we have said, this is not the kind of dialogue we want. And so at this moment, I'm telling you, as I said from the beginning, if Paul Biya should call me and say, Chris, we need to talk about Ambazonia, I will not say, you moron, shut the phone. I will say, Mr. President, sir, how can I help you? I will open the door, I will be forthcoming, tell him my peace of mind without shutting the door. That is what it means. Listen, in this struggle, we know that it will take both sides for a compromise, for a solution to be reached. I think if they knew from the beginning what they know now, that the 2 cubes of sugar would last undissolved for almost a decade, I think they would have gone on their knees begging. And so, yeah, there are possibilities. A new leader in La République du Cameroon, or if not a new leader, a Biya, still rig the elections and stay in power and make a phone call and say, Chris, we really need to talk. I am ready. My microphone will be ready to talk.
12 candidates are running for president. Of course, there's one of them who is conspicuously absent, who is running for an 8th term. But the other 11 are there of the opposition. Is there any one of them that strikes you as a candidate that if they won, you would like to sit down and have a conversation with?
Any of them won. Do
you have a preference?
Win. There is no preference because they are all La Republicans. They are all La Republicans.
Isn't that a blanket statement?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a blanket statement to say they are all the same?
Because they all act like children of the same mother. That's the way they act. So, but yes, the doors are open. Any of them that wins, we will be ready. We will have an open door policy. If they approach us, we will sit down, listen to them, make our proposals. Let me say something. We should not forget. These politicians, they will promise you everything while they are out campaigning. But the moment they win, get into power, they no longer listen to you, they listen to the French. That is why we have very little respect for them at this moment. But if any of them win and invite us to talk, we are ready to talk.
Isn't there a change of tides currently? We've seen France in recent months acknowledge the pre-independence massacres, their role that they played in the murder of Ernest Wanje, Nyobe. Don't you think things have evolved and we are not necessarily being puppeteered by the French anymore? Is that the reason? I mean, it's as good as saying that if an Anglophone were to be president, they'll be taking marching orders from the United Kingdom. Shouldn't you give them, after all these years, the benefit of the doubt because there's been more exposure? People are aspiring for more. People have seen how leadership functions across the world, and so they're more open to conversation. They are bolder. Look at Cabral Libi and the statements that he's making. Hiram Iyodi, a Canada-trained engineer who has had the opportunity to see the rest of the world. I mean, Joshua Osi of the SDF, who has a Swiss mom, so he has exposure, and many others. Akere Muna, a solid lawyer who was bâtonnier, who has a track record of integrity and who has handled with bravery issues of corruption. Don't you think that these are people who have the exposure enough to not let themselves be puppeteered by or be treated like puppets by allied forces?
Well, they say talk is cheap, isn't it? You talked about the French confessing all their sins of yesteryears. Has that confession stopped them from siphoning the resources in Cameroon? Has it stopped them from injecting their fingers into the treasuries in their former colonies? Of course not. They just still do the same thing they have done year in, year out. You talk about all this Joshua Osi, Akere Muna. These are men who cannot even for once acknowledge their own people having annexed, colonized, and enslaved, marginalized. And you think we can gain anything from them? Frundi started the SDF 1990, and everybody hailed him and said, finally, the Southern Cameroons will change. At the end of the day, by the time he died, he couldn't live in Bamenda. Think about that. He couldn't live in Bamenda, the hometown, the birthplace of the SDF. Why? Because these politicians, they fight for their bellies and not for the people. We are looking for a situation where Southern Cameroonians have their independence. They are able to elect their leaders. They are able to elect their parliamentarians. their senators, their House of Chiefs. They are able to carry out their own development initiatives and not have to sit and wait for Yaoundé to pass a decree that water should flow in Buea.
But the fear at this point is all of the elite that you are combating have deserted the hotbeds of the crisis, the Northwest and the Southwest. And so your critics believe that you paralyzing the economy of the Northwest and Southwest is really just hurting the poor man. You boycotting or calling on lockdowns and kids not being able to go to school is making a bad situation 10 times worse, because you would have a group of children who in 10 years would have missed 7 years of education. Is this something you give thought to?
No, I think your articulation is absolutely wrong there. We do not stop children from going to school. We have said every child in Ambazonia should go to a community school. And our definition of a community school, all the private schools, including mission schools, privately owned schools, and some other schools put together through community effort. The only schools we do not want to see in Ambazonia are La République du Cameroon, so-called government schools that really do not exist. So, Ambazonian children are all obliged to seek education because it is very critical. It is very, very important. We have seen what happened to South Africa in the days of apartheid when the blacks were not able to study. When apartheid was eventually over, South Africa began to recruit teachers from foreign countries to come and teach their kids. It pulled that black economy in South Africa years backward. We know the importance of education. We do not want that to happen in our communities. And so that is not our point. As far as lockdowns are concerned, that is a symbolic existence of war in our territory. And if you say that it is messing up with the economy of the two regions, no, I would say it is messing up with the economy of Cameroon. And you should realize that if Cameroon realize the impact of the war on its people, the people they want the world to believe are its people, and its economy, guess what? They're able to call this thing off the next day and call for a truce. Because
Mr. Andrew, you're speaking about people who clearly have shown they do not care. You see, and that's the interesting part of this whole crisis, is that you have a regime that has, even though those parts of the country are bankrupting the entire nation, as long as his seat of power in Yaoundé is still present and he can rule ad eternum, he doesn't give a damn about the Northwest and Southwest. And
so we should abandon it. So are you saying that because they do not care, we should surrender to people who do not care? Is that what you mean?
No, that's not what I mean. I wanted to ask you if you don't want to re-strategize, because it seems like they don't care about what the measures that you are taking to call for their attention and to put them in a corner so that they address the very serious problem that is the massacre of Anglophones.
Don't forget this, Angie. From the beginning, they call us 2 cubes of sugar, right? They thought they actually said in 2 weeks, they will use 1 week to cross the Southwest, use the other week to cross the Northwest, as they call it. It has gone to 9 years. 9 years, and they haven't done it. That is to demonstrate that they don't care, as you say, and still they haven't called for a truce, a dialogue, or a settlement. You have to understand that this thing turned from a crisis into a conflict, a war. And in war, sacrifices are paid. Freedom is not cheap. It is not given. You have to fight for it. You have to take it, because it will not be given to you. So, if you say change strategy, I don't know what you mean by change strategy. Are you talking about laying down arms, canceling ghost towns? That is a symbolic presence of war in Ambazonia. Ambazonians are not complaining. that they are suffering under ghost towns. Ambazonians are saying we have gone too far to want to wave the white flag of surrender. We are in this. If you were in my place and received the messages that I received, and you step out and say, let's give the Republic of Cameroon a chance, an opportunity to fix this, or maybe through the election, let's just go and vote, we may have a chance. People, the same Ambazonians you think are suffering, will stone you because they are hell-bent on achieving their own freedom and independence. So there's nothing like new strategy. There's nothing like new strategy. New strategy means capitulation, and we are not ready to do that. It's not going to happen. If Cameroon is serious to end the war, they can call for dialogue tomorrow. And when you call for dialogue, ceasefire comes, and then confidence measures are put into place, and some level of peace comes about as a result of that. But until then, we have to keep on fighting.
So in the month of May, an investigation conducted by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, along with the FBI and Diplomatic Security Service, led to the federal indictment of a Cameroonian national that you know very well, Eric Tato. Eric Tato, and he was charged with conspiring to provide material support to armed separatist groups in Cameroon and making threatening communications to injure or kidnap Cameroonian civilians. So there's been clearly a collaborative task between the Cameroonian government and the U.S. government to begin to crack down on separatist leaders who are U.S. based. Aren't you afraid for your own safety or freedom that you could get arrested on grounds of war crimes, that you could get arrested for threatening and calling on the injuring or harming or kidnapping of people?
That's the wrong characteristics to make. First of all, I'm not involved in any harming of our own people on the ground. Secondly, Eric Tato wasn't yes, he was indicted. An indictment is not guilt, you know that. He is actually behind bars now, not because of that particular indictment, because of another case entirely. I'm hearing of rape involved, the rape of a woman involved, which is the main reason he is now behind bars. But talking about the ongoings on the ground, listen, I am not afraid of anything because I have done everything in a way that somebody prosecuting war ought to do. I am here in the USA. My mother, 80 years old, has gone to Cameroon jail. My sister has been in the Cameroon jail for close to 2 years, after going through their criminal military tribunal. My brother has been killed in this war. My father has died in the course of this. Our family home in the BLM completely burnt down and doesn't exist anymore. In spite of this, I think I am one leader in this struggle who has believed our civilians remain untouchable. But everything, even an ant wearing the uniform of La République du Cameroun is an enemy. And if possible, not just Ambazonian fighters, but every civilian in Ambazonia seeing anything in La République du Cameroun's uniform should bring that thing down, should decimate it. They are the enemies. And if America is working with Cameroon, listen, I think it would be ignorance. America fought exactly the way we are fighting before they could become an independent country. Freedom, again, is not free. It is not given. It is taken. And we must fight and do everything we can without being intimidated, without being afraid to win the war. People who have gone to jail here, who have been indicted and convicted, and are serving prison time here. Maybe they did one thing or the other. I am waiting for them to come and tell me, you send for your fighters to go and kill that person. You send for your fighters to go and kidnap that person. That you will never hear from me. Let me tell you something, Angie, that I don't think you know. I have been interrogated, I think about 4 times by the FBI. They came to my house. They questioned me for about 2 hours. I answered their questions. They came in November 2022, raided my house early in the morning, went away with 32 items, including phones, laptops, computers, desktops, and it's been 3 years now. I am still waiting for their indictment. I traveled to Ghana in May. I was returning. They arrived at the airport. They confiscated my phones and returned them after 4 days. I traveled to the Philippines. I returned on August 1st. They confiscated my phones and laptops at the airport, and they are still with them. But I do not renege, because I know I fight this thing with all the strength within me, but I make sure I do it the right way. I do the right things.
If you're watching us live, Chris Anu is our guest. He's the former president of the Ambazonian Governing Council, and you would correct me if I did not speak the words correctly.
No, Ambazonian Interim Government.
And thank you so much. He is the former president of the Ambazonia Interim Government, and you are well aware that you have several factions of the Ambazonian Guild of the Anglophone War. Do you guys ever come together to agree on that you should have one head, or are you going to have different presidents running Ambazonia?
Of course, in every struggle, you always have factions. Even in the United States fight for independence, 35% of Americans did not want to separate from the British. So there was this internal opposition. You go to the apartheid movement in South Africa, where every black person would agree they were being oppressed and marginalized. Again, they were divided. Chibutelezi was essentially fighting on behalf of the state against the ANC of Mandela. And so our case is not different, but I think for sure at the end of the day, our leaders would be able to come together to resolve their differences, because they have their minds in the right place. A free and independent Ambazonia, if they do not agree now, I have no doubt when the moment comes, they will put their heads together to agree on a single decision that frees Ambazonia.
This question continues to come up. What candidate from La Republique would you be supporting? And even if you're not supporting, who do you kind of have a penchant for? And there's 2 questions. And then the second one is, wouldn't federalism provide what Ambazonia is looking for? So I think the intention is to see if you're ready to reach some kind of a compromise. And that is from Matt Boland.
Well, I did not think that at this moment, anybody in La Republique du Cameroon is in the place to dictate to Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, what form of state Ambazonians should accept. I think the best way to talk about federalism is to take it to a referendum. Take it to a referendum, and when you take it to a referendum, the question should be, do you want a federation or you want an independent Southern Cameroon? And before you ask, do you want federation, you should be able to spell out exactly what form of federation you are putting on that table. So if you take it to a referendum and the people say, well, we've been with Cameroon for 64 years, we can do federation, then that is what the people want. But if the people say we have been together with Cameroon for 64 years, and what a mistake we made. We want our own country. We want our own independent country. That is the result. So, federalism, I hear it all over the place, cannot be dictated from those who hold power. I will not object to any federation talks, but my suggestion would be, let's put it to referendum. Spare your kind of federation. Let the people of Ambazonia stand on their independence. Let's put it to the table and let the people vote what they want.
Another question comes from the chat in here. And it's from Claude Zanesti, and it says, if you were to give Southern Cameroons a special status, like in Quebec, in Canada, a fair enough middle ground to resolve the situation, would that be one for you?
Who is in the place to give Southern Cameroon a special status? The people of the Southern Cameroons? Again, nobody in Yaoundé is in the place to give the Southern Cameroon any special status. I think the solution to this is a referendum where the people of the Southern Cameroons themselves decide for themselves what they want.
Chris Anu is our guest tonight. He is the former president of the Ambazonia interim government. He's here to take questions. He's become a star again because of the declarations that were made by Issa Chiroma today in Bamenda. Issa Chiroma, who is running for president under the FSNC, a former minister who resigned from government about 3 months ago and decided to pull out of an alliance with the Biya regime. But this leads me to ask you a question. What has become of the interim government now that you are no longer presiding it?
Well, the interim government is still there, very strong, kicking. When I took over in 2022, I promised I wasn't going to hold it for over a term. And last September 26, my term came to an end. Elections were conducted, and Dr. Anthony Epa, who lives in Chicago, became the new leader of the interim government. And he is just taking over from where I ended. Now, let me add this. I am not going anywhere. I am my soul is still in the interim government and in the struggle for the liberation of Ambazonia. Only my functions have changed. I am no more in control, but I am part of the machine. That's what I can say.
So your critics believe that the Ambazonian crisis has become a money-making machine, that it's been very lucrative, and that's the reason why some people are holding on to power and secretly desiring for this crisis not to come to an end. Is this true? Are you rich from the crisis?
Well, if I was rich, Angie, you know African leaders, why would I be quickly handing over if I was that? If there was such money opportunity, I would have sat still like others have done, right? Listen, but more seriously, this thing is not about enriching others. Maybe others have been enriched in the course of this struggle. I am not one of them. Instead, I have sold everything, my time, my family, my everything, my professional life into this struggle. I've never asked for a dime. I have never asked for a salary. Nothing, zero. The reason being that people see what I do today. Those who know me in my secondary school, high school years, and my professional life know that what I'm doing today for Ambazonia didn't start today. It is something that has been in my blood. And it will interest you to know I came to the US as a refugee.
As a refugee from Nigeria, and prior to that, you were very involved pro-SDF at some time, but even before the days when you were rooting for the SDF, you were considered as subversive by one of your school principals because you had very, very fiery opinions, and you were hungry for issues that were related to human rights. We've been able to verify that. We've been able to gather that information. So I am very
allergic. I am from childhood, very allergic to injustice. Very, very allergic. I don't like to see the powerful one try to take advantage of the small man.
But Mr. Ayo, do you realize today that people don't see that in you anymore, but they see a warlord?
Well, because of the situation that presents itself. By the way, I don't look like a warlord, evidently. I look like an activist, an advocate, because I don't think I am commanding any war. I'm just out here doing the work of advocacy.
You were the elder brother of one of the fiercest, one of the most feared rebels or Ambazonian leaders, military leaders, Field Marshal. And so you cannot say you were not commanding any army, any military. And you say you were president of the Ambazonia interim government, so you were a commander-in-chief.
Let me tell you something, a story that I don't think I have ever shared this story that nobody knows. I visited Cameroon before the war, the very month the war started, October 2016. I left like a month before the war started. I got here and the war started. My junior brother, Field Marshal, called me and said he is putting together his army to go to the BLM and fight. I laughed. Believe me, I never for once took him seriously. Never for once. That is to tell you, some people might think that Chris Ano sent his brother to go and fight. Never. He called me and said he is putting together his colleagues, his friends to go and fight. He was in Yaoundé. He was living in Yaoundé. And he was in their army, like a lot of people to Cameroon's army. He abandoned the uniform and said he is going back to the BLM to put together his team to fight. When he told me that, I just laughed. I thought, you can do that? You think you can do that? I didn't take him seriously until one early morning, I was dropping my wife at work, and I got a phone call. No, I got a video clip from somebody whose name, if I mention, you will know, the Prince of the BLM. He sent me a video clip. I listened to the clip. I saw others in the clip. I did not see my brother in the clip, but I heard his voice. Then I called back the Prince and said, who is this? Who is talking here? Is it Oliver? Is it my brother? He said, yes, that is Oliver, because his face did not show in the clip. So it occurred to me, so this guy really meant it. So that is to say that I did not send him to go and fight. Did I support him? Of course. Others would not be dying for others, and my own brother feels the need to go and fight for his people, and I say, don't go. He was an adult. He had the right to make the choice.
So with the many factions of Ambazonia, which of the factions actually have a grip on the ground? Who is the one who announces the ghost towns? Do you guys consult before you arrive at these decisions, and who announces the ceasefires?
There is consultation between the home front and the leadership in the diaspora. We discuss and we agree on the dates. Why they are announcing, we are announcing.
And then another thing, Mr. Chiroma who is clearly the star of the current electoral campaigns in Cameroon. He's promised to release all political prisoners. Are you going to hand over power back to, or would you leverage and advocate that power be handed back to Sisiku if he were released from jail?
Why should power be handed to anybody when people are picked up in the course of a struggle? That moment is over. That moment has passed. They will have to come out and join the leadership that is here at the moment. Of course, I'm not the leader at this moment, but if they were to come out tomorrow, what the right thing for them to do would be to sit down with the current leadership and say, how can we work together?
More questions are coming in and more remarks. Ethel Esabe, who I believe is Southwest based, says extended ghost towns have brought untold hardships, and this is an entrepreneur, untold hardships to people residing in the Northwest and Southwest. You want to make any comments to that?
I believe he or she is very right, very correct, especially a lockdown that stretches for more than a month. However, I really love them to know we do not do this because we want to punish them. We do it for strategic reasons. We have made it very clear. Our school calendar year can no longer be the same with La République du Cameroon's calendar year. This also coincided with their elections on October the 12th, an election we have banned in Ambazonia. So it was necessary to call this long lockdown because of these two events that coincided. But we feel the pain of our people and I want to assure them, at the end of the day, when this is all over, they will be glad they sacrificed.
Maintenu. L'objectif premier du régime sera de décapiter l'OMRC en plusieurs, ou alors de ne pas signer les documents pour le dépôt de dossier lors des élections couplées, car rien n'a changé depuis 2020 où nous avons boycotté les élections avec raison. En résumé, à défaut d'avoir la coalition souhaitée, nous devons choisir un candidat pour rester dans la logique du changement. ING, Dufaux-Bruce, prisonnier politique du MRC, encore en Bastille. Cette fois-ci, je vais lire la sortie de Maître Amélie Touré, qui défend Bec et Ongle Maurice Kamto. Il dit ceci: synthétisons pour le bavardage. Si on vote pour Issa Chiroma Bakary et on arrive à imposer nos votes au Conseil constitutionnel, la situation sera-t-elle pire qu'avec Biya? Si on vote pour Issa Chiroma Bakary et il perd, on aura plus perdu qu'avant. Si on s'abstient ou boycotte sans rien faire qui change notre situation, on sera juste dans la posture du lâche qui dit deux points. Voyez-vous, j'avais raison, je suis plus intelligent. Fin de citation. Moi, je préfère y croire et avoir tort que de ne pas y croire et avoir raison. Signé Amélie Touré. Je vais peut-être encore me permettre de voir une autre position. dit que j'ai tellement regardé les positions que je me suis dit, à cette allure, il faut quelque chose. Il faut quelque chose. Faudrait-il que le MRC se réunisse? Là, c'est le vice-président. L'un des vice-présidents du MRC, Maître Emmanuel Simon, avocat citoyen. Ça, c'était avant le meeting de Yaoundé. Je l'avais annoncé. Je voterai pour Issa Kiroma Bakari. Pour l'aider à gagner, je me dois de faire la promotion de sa candidature. Alors, je serai à son côté. Notre ligne a toujours été le changement dans la paix et par les urnes. Depuis 12 ans. Et elle n'a pas changé. Aller aux urnes, c'est s'inscrire, prendre sa carte d'électeur, voter, surveiller et défendre son vote. C'est notre leitmotiv. Le président Maurice Kamto nous a encore le 26 septembre dernier demandé d'aller voter un candidat de l'opposition de son choix en âme et conscience. Ce qui veut dire que le 12 octobre, lui-même ira voter. Alors, que ceux qui prônent le boycott ou l'abstention, ou même l'insurrection dans la rue à partir de leur confort occidental, se rendent bien compte que c'est eux qui sont en rébellion avec le président, avec qui j'ai échangé à son domicile le mardi dernier. Maître Emmanuel Simon, avocat citoyen. Et voilà un autre papier. Traître à ciel ouvert. Là, c'est une responsable du MRC qui est Aïssatou Bouba Dalé. Elle y va très fort. Je vais tout simplement parce que je vous ai dit, le premier titre c'est La traîtrise à ciel ouvert. Pourquoi ce père fondateur ne démissionne-t-il pas une fois du MRC? Lui seul sait ce qui lui restait encore faire. Depuis longtemps, cet homme qui ne m'a pas épargné par ses attaques à répétition au sein du directoire national, je crois que c'est Kalemboudé, on y va, peut-être je me trompe, au sein du directoire national, dès mon arrivée, montrait des signes qui ne trompaient plus personne. Aujourd'hui, je comprends mieux pourquoi il restait encore parmi nous, au directoire national. C'est parce que c'est ODN que bat le cœur du MRC. C'est ODN, le directeur du directoire national, que se prennent les grandes décisions pour le parti. Et c'est tous ces documents importants et confidentiels qui sont aujourd'hui entre les mains de notre candidat. Allez savoir comment. Mais ce qui est encore plus terrible et vicieux, c'est que je constate que Calais Baudé récite
son apogée.
Nous sommes déjà presque arrivés à la fin de cette édition spéciale, l'une des chaînes sociopolitiques. Alors, bienvenue donc pour la prochaine.